I want to start our discussion in the USL about a player in Charleston who, last time I checked, he's okay.
He's all right.
And Nick Marcanic is on his way out the door in Charleston at season's end, whenever that is. And he's heading to a richer payday, presumably, in European football. Good payday for the Charleston Battery. If you could personify what Marcanic has done to Charleston, with Charleston, and for Charleston as he's on his way out the door at season's end, how would you personify this season with what's been going on?
Despite becoming the all-time leading goal scorer, I personify it as underrated. People see the goal tallies, but I don't think people are talking about what Marcanic does. He scores with his left. He scores with his right. He really, he just creates so much opportunity for other players to score. He cuts it. He goes to the end line. He cuts it inside for a pass. He gets his assist. He causes just so much fear in a defense that he creates opportunities for everybody else. It's underrated because he's scored 27 this year. And I feel like a couple years ago with Aji Berry, he had the knack for creating an amazing goal where he would line one up from 25, 30 yards away and put it postage stamp top corner. That's not really Marcanic's game. Marcanic's game is, if he's within 18 yards of goal, you're not saving it. And it looks so easy. Meanwhile, Haji Berry had this thing of making hard goals. He would score hard goals. But the difference between Berry and Marcanic is that Marcanic never misses the easy one. And it's just so underrated because it doesn't look flashy despite how consistent he is.
So right now, the way things are in USL Championship, and it's something that we've discussed when we do our review preview shows at the end of every week, you know who your 1 or your 1-2 is, and then everybody else is beating the daylights out of each other trying to either get north of the playoff bar or figure out your positioning. Let's take it a conference at a time, since we're stuck here in Charleston to start things off as our topic number 1. It's interesting to see Louisville and Charleston and then everybody else. You've got the way that we look at it, almost like it's like that Tour de France thing where you've got like that lead pack, and then you have the peloton trying to chase and close the distance and all this kind of stuff. Right now, Lou City and Charleston, no surprise, 1-2. By the way, the sun rises in the east. You have to pay your taxes in April, and Lou City's at the top of the table. Who knew?
Who did look at
Tampa and Detroit City, which I think is an underrated story also this season in the Eastern Conference, Detroit City. And then the chaos in group number 3, where you have 7 teams separated by 6 points to either stay in the playoff hunt, 5 through 8, or come into the playoffs. Let's work our way up. Pittsburgh, who had a horrendous start to the season, and we could hear Bob Lilly yelling from here. 35 points, 2 points out of a playoff spot. North Carolina FC. How about North Carolina FC? They've been kind of hiccuping, and they're north of the bar. They're south of the bar right now. They're south of the bar. Hartford Athletic, who for me is another one of the stories in the Eastern Conference, where Hartford has traditionally been awful. And a lot of us gravitate toward the NYCFC 2 Hartford Athletic U.S. Open Cup match as something that triggers in our brain from this season. They're hanging around the playoff bar. Loudoun's hanging around the playoff bar, but there's no room to breathe because Rhode Island FC started turning draws into wins. They're north of the bar. 13 draws, by the way. That's just wild to me. Then Indy 11 at 40 and your Legion at 41. When you look at group number 3, the 7 separated by 6, what are you staring at?
Honestly, I'm staring at what is going to be one of the most exciting ends of the season I can remember since the 2021 USL League One playoff chase, where, Georgia's own South Georgia Tormenta end up winning it all. But what people don't remember is that on the final day of the season, they almost missed the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
They could have finished either second or I believe it was 7th. All within just a couple results in the final day. You're looking at the same thing in the East right now. where Pittsburgh is figuring it out. They finally look like a Pittsburgh team. North Carolina FC looks like the team I thought they would be in the preseason. Hartford, sneakily, we like you said, we kind of talk about Hartford as Hartford. They haven't lost a game in, what is it now, 7 matches?
Yep.
3 draws in there, but 4 wins. I mean, they are making up ground. You have Loudon, who every year I say it's Loudon's year, and this year I still believe it's Loudon's year, but how do you not? Rhode Island, who I think are 1 draw away from being the sole crown champions of the draw kings of the most draws in a championship season. And then, we just work through it. You see Indy, who is falling off pretty hard. If I'm looking at who comes in, who drops out, if I were to talk about a team who I think drops out.
Okay. Yeah, because that's how we do this. If you're bringing somebody north of the bar, somebody's got to go low. We can't have 9 playoff teams.
It feels like Indy has caught whatever it is, the opposite of fire, I guess, caught ice in the last few weeks while everybody else has gotten hot.
Yeah.
I don't know who raises above the bar, whether it be Pittsburgh, North Carolina, Hartford, but it feels like Indy has caught the worst possible form they could at this stretch. I feel like Indy is going to be the odd man out. I think that Birmingham has enough wiggle room to stay in. Loudon scares me a little bit, but I trust what they have going forward in their attack. Meanwhile, I'm not really seeing it out of Indy. I don't know who's going to jump up, but I do think Indy is going to be the one to plop down into that bottom bar. Because
as we all know, what's cooler than being cool? Ice cold.
Everyone knows.
And so that's what you're staring at, right? Could the Open Cup run have hurt Indy 11? Could that have been a factor?
I think there's a chance. I also think that when we see just how much they've won, I mean, it was was it 11 straight wins?
Yeah.
I think that was never sustainable. I think the winning could have been sustainable, but that pace was never sustainable. And after you go on this Open Cup run, you get not a whole lot of rest, and you end up losing, I believe it was to Las Vegas, who's a very good team. After playing your B team, they never recovered after that because they go out and play their A team against, I think it was Seattle, and they don't get a win. And it's just not, they just never were able to turn around. I don't know if it was miles on the legs or if it was purely they just did not see a result go their way, and it just has turned into a downfall for them.
All right, Western Conference, and Chuck is in this morning, and he is happy about the discussion of draws to wins and Rhode Island FC playing at Bern. This has been so long, though. I've got to ask you about your West Coast road trip. It's been that long since you've been on the show. Western Conference. New Mexico United, 12 points clear. And then you've got group number 2. So it's like the groups are in different places doing different things. Where in the East you have the top 2, you've got the second group, and then the third group, the Chase group. You've got New Mexico United, and Alex Tambakis' season I don't think can be spoken about any more highly between the sticks for New Mexico United. Then you get the fun of group number 2 with Switchbacks, who started out horrendously, and they found it. Sacramento Republic, who has a match in hand as we're talking about things heading into this week. Sacramento, a lot of folks are thinking it's going to be New Mexico and Sacramento in the West by the time we're done. Memphis 901 and Stephen Glass, who got a contract extension through the end of next season. Right now, they are well ahead of Vegas Lights in win and goals and goal difference right now. They are the 4. They would be your last home team in AutoZone in the first round of the playoffs. Vegas, it's amazing what happens when you just have a little bit of investment. Vegas right now at 43 points. They're a part of that gaggle. Roots, I'll put a bookmark in it right here. Roots, I don't know what Roots team I'm going to get on any given basis because they
don't either.
And it's like they'll put together a string of 5 or 6 unbeaten, and then they'll step on a rake like they have right now, 29 matches in and 40 points, losers of 3 in a row. What in the blue hell is going on? So we'll start with this Chase group right now in the Western Conference of the 4 teams separated by 4 points, 3 through 6.
So the Memphis versus Las Vegas, that is not a tiebreaker of goal difference.
Right.
Goal differential is the 5th tiebreaker.
So is it wins first or head to head?
It is head to head, and then it's aggregate of head to head. So if you're tied, if one team didn't sweep, or if it's a draw and a win, if both teams win, it's the aggregate score.
Oh, wow.
And then it goes to points per game versus in-conference opponents. Then it goes to goal differential.
That just gave me a headache.
Oh, yeah, which makes it even worse when you look at the East, because all those teams had different tiebreakers over each other. So that's why it's utter chaos. In the West, this is I think what is going super underrated right now is when you look at this 3 through everybody else, basically. Is Sacramento Republic. I'm sure they're trying, but I'm not sure if they are.
Okay.
Like they have yet to really show me that they're Sacramento. They did against Orange County, I think, in the 4th game of the year, where they were having to kind of lick their wounds after having a goalkeeper score on them. They came out, dominated Orange County. They haven't looked like that since, really. Maybe against that Oakland Roots match from a few months ago.
Okay.
You have Memphis, who they are really the only team in the West that I trust to score goals.
Yes.
But they've also gotten like 8 red cards this season. So are they even going to field 11 by the end of the game? We don't know. This Oakland Roots team, who they look good, they look bad, they look mediocre, they look like the champions. We don't know. Phoenix Rising snuck in there. They fired their coach, who is now the head coach of Orange County, by the way, and who is right below them in the standings. Their fans want everybody fired, and yet they're still sitting in 7th, only 1 place below last year before they went on their magical run. Tulsa, I don't believe. San Antonio, I don't believe. Monterey Bay, I don't believe. El Paso exists. So I think that our playoff line, I think this is it. I think it's going to basically stay in this order.
Okay.
I think that if there's a jump, it's going to be Las Vegas over Memphis. But again, Memphis has every tiebreaker. So if it ends up being tied on points like this, Memphis gets it. I think you have your order. I think that maybe Sacramento jumps Colorado Springs, but Colorado Springs is absolutely on fire. And I'm going to be honest, James Chambers is when I get the ballot, I'm voting James Chambers for the coach of the year, because I thought easily Colorado Springs before the season, when you look at the roster, when you looked at how depleted everything was, they were the worst team in the West. And he has made them into a home playoff lock. I think he's coach of the year. He's made me eat crow. I'm so impressed with what Colorado Springs has done.
All right, so you mentioned Memphis 901 and their moments of indiscipline. There have been 8 red cards this season.
Yes.
It is Cariaga, Oscar, Nick Depew, Marlon with 2, Lucas Tercy with 1, and Abdoulaye Sissoko and Akeem Ward with 1. So
I think they're missing some, because Bruno Lapa should have 1 or 2 as well.
So let's see, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8 reds, and they have Bruno with 3 yellows. That's it.
I wonder if the Reds count 2 yellows, because they've gotten a lot of straight reds this year. I mean, you just don't know if they're going to field an 11 every single game. You just don't know.
Absolutely crazy. Team stats. So you mentioned the 8 reds, yellow cards. By the way, it's like I want to click 83 yellow cards for Memphis. 83.
Not to be outdone by El Paso, who I think they're just trying to get off the field. I don't even think they're like I think they're just like, I want to go home.
Wow. I mean, 83 yellow cards in 29 matches for Memphis. Not so it's like 3 1/3. I mean, that's not too bad on a game by game average, but 83 yellow cards, that is insane.
Yeah.
Score goals, get yellow cards, get reds. So that's what you're looking at when it comes to Memphis 901. Man, you look at obviously, I want to say who's hot, who's not as we're coming into this particular stretch of the season. And so obviously the schedule being what it is, got a handful of matches left across the board, about a month left in the season. In October, everything ends. Decision day is, wow, close to Thanksgiving, that's the Saturday before Halloween. So next month's visit, when we discuss things toward the end of the regular season, then we'll get into our tricks and treats and things like that. But as things stand right now, so you mentioned coach of the year for you, Western Conference. Who's coach of the year for you in the Eastern Conference?
Honestly, it's hard not to go Danny Cruz. They've just been so dominant.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm asked to go with outside the box, don't go with Louisville pick. I think Danny Dichio in Detroit City is my next one. I do think that Danny Dichio has done a better coaching job, but you can't ignore what Louisville has done.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think Danny Cruz will get it. I think he'll end up being my vote, but Danny Dichio is standing right there, and it's close for me.
So let me ask you this: Is there a moment where Danny Cruz leaves Lou City? Would he go to an MLS gig, or does your gut tell you that he wants to build Lou City into something and that he would stay beyond somebody waving a fat check in front of his face and sit there and say, hey, come and reconstruct my MLS club?
I think the only way it happens is if he gets the former Louisville City gig, which is Hackworth, where he ends up being director of football of an MLS club, because we've seen MLS clubs are not very excited to give a head coach position straight away. You have to do your academy or an assistant job first, and you get your shot, which you see out in, I believe it's DC right now, which is like an all former USL coaching staff, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think he will leave for an assistant job. I just don't see it happening. I think the only way it happens is he gets a director of football job like Hackworth got in St. Louis.
Okay, a couple of other greatest hits before we get out of here. All right, so you think the Western Conference is going to be the way that it currently sits right now? No one from below the bar. Tulsa, San Antonio, Monterey Bay makes their way into the 8 and knocks out Orange County?
I think so. I don't really trust what's happening in Tulsa. San Antonio it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And Monterey Bay, I mean, you're looking at a Monterey Bay team who they have talent. I mean, they have a lot of good players.
Justin Traeger, baby.
But, man, I mean, when you're looking at a team in the championship who's being outspent by 2-3 clubs in League One,
wow.
No bueno. And then El Paso's alive.
Yes. Yeah. And so, I mean, so that's one of the questions that I have here, and we'll take it a team at a time.
Yep.
El Paso brought in Wilmer Cabrera, and are they content from what you've been able to see? Are they content with having Wilmer get everything into the way that he wants it this season and expecting more results next season? Was this just making sure that everything just kind of calmed down, that Wilmer gets to have more of a say in players next season? Was this just more of managing through to get to the end of the year and integrating what Wilmer Cabrera wants to do in El Paso?
If they're not expecting him to be around next year, they should have stopped him before he made it RGV2.
Yeah.
Because he's brought in 7 former RGV players. He's brought in 3 former RGV staff, which I don't know if anybody at El Paso saw how RGV worked because it wasn't good. And so now they're saying, why don't we just do it again on a smaller field?
Right.
If they aren't planning to have him around, I don't know what they're planning at all, because clearly Wilmer's planning to make it, running back the greatest hits, including bringing his son over, which is hilarious.
Saw that. All right, so let's go to the bottom of the East. What in the blue hell is going on with not a Miami FC, but the Miami FC?
They finally cut budget. I mean, Mr. Worldwide came in and bought the stadium.
True. Well, so did South Dade Kia.
Yeah, this is true. But it looks like Ricardo Silva is pulling out a lot of funding for a lot of things. They are taking their season ticket deposits. I expect those to be returned.
Okay.
I don't see Miami staying around. It doesn't make sense. If anything, they might drop down to League One, but I so doubt it. For years, Ricardo Silva has spent so much money on a roster.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talk about even the roster last year before he got picked apart. I mean, it was star-studded. You could not go anywhere without seeing a legit USL superstar on that team. 2 years ago was even better. I mean, the roster from 2 years ago, it's like, could this team contend for a title? For one reason or another, it never worked out. And he said, why would I spend a lot of money to miss the playoffs when I could spend a little bit of money to miss the playoffs? And this is why we're here.
League One, you've got your Jagermeister Cup final. Northern Colorado, which seems to have found themselves under Amon Zaya. It took a little while for that to happen. And Northern Colorado off the field will be my follow-up question, in addition to everything going on in League One. Northern Colorado Hailstorm, Forward Madison at Four Rivers to determine the first ever in-league silverware determined during a season here in the United States that I can think of.
Yeah, it's essentially a precursor to a League Cup with the USL. It's just the first iteration. So
what have you thought about Jagermeister Cup in its iteration this year, and what it has done and creating its own outside of normal competition chaos, to where you have Northern Colorado and Forward Madison chasing after a title? No Union Omaha here.
No Union Omaha. The fact that Jagermeister has not sent me a shot of glory shot glass yet, I think is ridiculous. I have dropped that tagline as much as I can all the time. I love a shot of glory. I think Jagermeister is what has made Northern Colorado catch fire. I think Northern Colorado is the best team in League One right now. Don't look at their standings because they started off so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Jagermeister, the tiebreaker for Jagermeister is goals scored.
Yep.
So there was no sitting back and defending. It was, we are going to shoot, score. Bruno Rendon has been incredible. Noah Powder has been stunning. Billy King has continued to do Billy King things. Like, they have really revolutionized the way they play, because they just started playing more freely in the Jagermeister, and they've taken it over to the league. And they're like, why would we change the way we're playing if we're winning the other way? And I think when you look at Forward Madison and you look at the Jagermeister Cup with Northern Colorado, you look at Northern Colorado and you say, this is a really good attack. And you believe in the attack in Forward Madison. That's Texas Christian Chaney. It always happens. But you're really looking at a stout back line with Shipman in goal, who has really proved me wrong. He seemed like the weak link last year. This year looks a lot better. You're really seeing a defense versus attack. There is no more goals decided, because in the end, goals do decide it, but it's not a tiebreaker. You're going to see a team sit in. You're going to see a team go full throttle. I think it's going to be a fascinating match. I think it's going to be so much fun. And I think it's been such a success. I think that if the USL Championship does not jump in next year and make this a proper League Cup, I think that they are not seeing the forest through the trees, because the Jagermeister Cup has been some of the most fun I've had watching soccer in a long time outside the Super League. The Super League is just chef's kiss.
Yeah, especially when you get to drop 6 in a game at the Cotton Bowl. And the way that right now League One is structured in the standings, you've got 2 chase races. You have Union Omaha who's in, but that's just because of the number of points separating 1 through 8 right now. You've got the chase group 2 through 7 separated by 5 points. No real surprise. And then the get-in group to be the 8, you've got 4 teams separated by 2 points. Richmond right now having won 2 in a row. They're now north of the playoff bar. Tormenta, who's drawn their last 4, below the playoff bar at 19 points. Red Wolves, who've lost 4 of 5. They got 1 point in their last 5 matches outside in normal competition. They're at 17. They got 5 wins. And Lex has lost 3 of 4. And they're at 17 points. So it's the standard amount of chaos when you're dealing with USL League One getting ready for the end of the season and the stretch run.
I think the only thing that really matters here is that 8th spot. Yeah. Honestly, I really do. And when I look at pure names on roster, when I look at the way that they play, I talked about it on Twitter a few weeks ago. I'm baffled that this Richmond team isn't better, that they don't get results, because I watch them play. I love what I see. Mm-hmm. I see names on roster. I love what I see. I see the coaching staff. I love what I see. It just doesn't result in wins, and it confuses me. Tormenta, I just have so much trust in the South Georgia Tormenta organization that I always just blindly trust that they'll figure it out.
Yeah,
I just trust what Ian Cameron and everybody else out there has going. But, man, are they missing a Keziah Sterling.
Yeah.
Like, they are Keziah Sterling away from being, I think, a real contender. They don't have that coming. I don't think Tormenta, if they get in, I don't think they're a contender. Meanwhile, I do think that Richmond could be a dark horse. Then you see Lexington. Oh, Lexington. They are one of the teams that are outspending Monterey Bay. They are spending a lot of money.
Yeah, when you bring in Cameron Lancaster, yeah.
I don't like being the person to say get rid of a coach. But Darren Powell has always been a traditionally defensive coach. Mm-hmm. And the defenses look horrific. When your calling card is defense, and you don't score goals and you don't defend, what do you have? They have brought in 17 million center backs. They can't keep a clean sheet. They have one of the best goalkeepers in the league. He's being pelted all the time. I don't trust this Lexington team to do anything right now. And so I think they're out. Chattanooga, they have been out of my peripheral for a long time. I was shocked to see that they were as close as they were. I thought they were closer to Fuego than the playoffs, and that's just from watching them. It doesn't look good. I don't trust them at all to get many more points to the end of the year.
We have been reporting about what's been going on off the field at Four Rivers and the financial situation, or lack of a financial situation, with what's been going on with Hailstorm. Have you heard anything about settling of debts? Hailstorm as a franchise, I have heard might be on the ropes. What are you guys hearing about what's going on with Hailstorm?
I'm going to speak carefully because we are talking to Eamon Zaya tonight on the USL show. So
excellent plug. Nicely done.
Yeah, let's not burn any bridges before we get to that.
Oh no, but factually, what are we talking?
Factually, from the agents that I've talked to, the club has not been paying fees.
Okay.
The clubs have come out. The club owners have come out and said players are being paid, which is factually true, but not by Northern Colorado. According to agents, they're being paid for by the league. The league has basically, a fund, a treasure chest, just in case of situations like this, which good on the league for having that in place. We see other leagues that don't, but the way that things are being talked about by the owners, it seems like they are still planning to be around for the long haul. Everything that I've heard from other sources is that they oversold what they had, and they weren't able to deliver, and they weren't able to pull the strings enough, right? It's kind of like that thing of you tell somebody that you know a guy, and you tell that guy that you said you knew another guy, and it turns into a long string of I know a guy, trust me.
Yeah.
Kind of feels like what happened in Northern Colorado. Well, from what I understand, they're trying to find new ownership that can put things through, because they have a half-built stadium. They're either just going to keep it half-built, tear it down, or build the rest of it. Like, you don't have many options. They put shovel into dirt. They're in a weird position. I think that Northern Colorado will continue to have a club, especially through the rain with the women's team.
Right.
But that's semi-professional. Whether they stay a professional club, that's to be seen.
So how was the road trip?
I didn't make it because I was stuck in the Atlanta airport for 2 days because of Delta.
Wow.
So if anybody has ever made the run from Terminal A to Terminal F, I did that 4 times in the span of like 2 hours. And then my flight got delayed or got canceled at 3 a.m. on one day. And then the next day it got canceled at midnight. And I just called my in-laws and was like, can you please pick me up? I've slept in the Atlanta airport. By the way, Terminal E, wonderful to sleep in. Big windows, lots of space. If you have to sleep in the Atlanta airport, Terminal E is the place to go. But Phil and John made it out there. And some of the content we were able to get, it wasn't what we planned, but like, it was awesome. Like, we had live interviews before the game, after the game. They were able to get on the field and have a nice little setup. And I mean, it was really cool. I was super excited that it was able to go off without major hitch, I guess. It wasn't what we planned, but it did show us that we have plans to do it again soon. So I hope we have some stuff in the works. I'm not going to share anything on that yet, but we're hopefully going to go East Coast this time, and we're excited.
Yeah, go to Bern, go to the new Rhode Island facility, because that's what we're planning. By the way, USL League One on the Twitters 2 minutes ago. The final shot at glory.
Thank you. It's the shot at glory. I'm being honest. A shot at glory has definitely entered my lexicon on the USL show, and it's not great because now I don't know what to replace it with.
Well, hey, it's maybe just a double shot, because two leagues, 2 competitions, 3 leagues, triple shot, those kinds of things.
Yeah, Super League.
All right, so yes, exactly. So hit me with the plug one more time. Show tonight. You got Amon Zayed. What else is going
on? Lots of Super League chat. I'm in the middle of doing long form video analysis for the Super League. So my last one was Tampa Bay Sun versus DC Power. Ended up being 45 minutes of just tactical analysis.
Wow.
Of the matches. And next one is going to be the Spokane Zephyr, which part of that is me looking up what a Zephyr is.
So and it is a rather windy wind, sir.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've learned. It's just a very windy wind. That's not a tornado. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I forget who they played, but I'm in the middle of breaking it. Oh, Brooklyn. Okay. So it's
who finally have a head coach.
Who finally officially have a head coach, yes. Yeah. So, if you like long form tactical analysis, that goes up on my personal channel, Hammering Down, and on the USL Show Goals account, goals.tv.
All right. So this now means that since the last week of the regular season is the 26th, this means that I'm guessing that means you're going to be with us on the 22nd of October leading into the final weekend and the 29th of October leading out and heading into the playoffs. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I'm fully prepared for it to be the 22nd, 29th, the 5th, the 12th, the 9th, all the way until we crown a champion, pretty much. Oh. That's what we're here for.
Sweet. All right. And so just once again, whatever works better for you, 9:30 Eastern or 10:30 Eastern, 8:30 your time or 9:30 your time, just let us know. And you'll be locked in place. So go back to class and make sure that they are totally corrupted with tactics and things involving the USL. We'll catch you soon, my friend.
See ya. Thank you.
There goes Kaylor. Kaylor's going to go back to school. Or he's in school. He's going to go back to class. We kept him for like 30 minutes, 33 minutes.